Welcome to another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous, coming to you 6 days a week as we interview whitetail experts and hear their traditions and personal stories of the hunt. Learn more about the latest gear, discover proven tips, and the latest strategies so you can make your next hunt a success. Now, here's your host, Bruce Hutchin.
Welcome to Whitetail Rendezvous Podcast, episode number 203. On today's episode, you'll hear part 2 of Rut Functional Hunting by Jerry Everhart. He's going to go in depth, tell you how, why, and where his method will work no matter where you are in North America. So listen up, folks. This is a special show by a special man who over the last 5 years has had 11 sessions in a tree stand and taken $5. That's right, 11 times in a tree stand, $5 on the ground. Jerry's got some tips you're not going to want to miss. Hey, listeners, don't forget to text 33444 Food Plot for your free Food Plot ebook. Welcome to another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous. This is your host, Bruce Hutchin. And listeners, if you haven't listened to episode 188, part 1, please stop, go back and listen to yesterday's episode, because what we're going to do today is we're going to really get down on the whole technique of what Jerry has done in the industry about rut functional hunting methods that calculates the key days of the rut and hunts over a specific pattern of mock scrapes. Jerry, again, welcome to the show.
Hi, Bruce. How are you today?
I'm doing well. Yesterday, we ended up with mature bucks, or a different breed of cat, as I like to say. And to hunt them successfully, you got to think like a buck, and you got to do things differently if you really want to find Mr. Wonderful in your woodlot.
That's right. That's exactly what we were talking about. And I think we set the path forward to what I would say is take advantage of the mating instincts of that big buck to harvesting. So I assume that's what we want to talk about today.
Yes, sir. We want to just expand over the next 30 minutes. We got the background yesterday. Now we want to get down to the nitty gritty, as they say, and we're going to tell folks what they need to do, how they need to do it, why they need to do it, and most importantly, when they need to do it.
Very good. We will not be able to cover all of the how-to in this short period of time, but for you folks that are interested, you can go to Hunt Fish Journal, and we have a whole series of podcasts, and it's broken down on some of these subjects, such as how to make your scrapes, in other words, how to control pressure, and those type of things. You may find that be very interesting to you. So for more details, you go to the huntfishjournal.com and to our podcast and look at in more in details. But we'll get back to the basics of it. And Bruce, I think we were talking about how that buck avoids a stand after you've hunted it a few days, and that brings us to the point. Then what do we do? How we hunters, how can we then utilize our hunting season and enjoy hunting and not burn our stands up, so to speak? I think that's where we were at. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yes, sir.
Okay.
And I'm going to take a break here. Jerry, are you on iTunes, Stitcher? Just tell the folks right now.
Okay.
You mentioned huntfishjournal.com, I'm assuming. So tell us, how do we find you?
Okay. You can find Hunt Fish Journal on the internet. We're on iTunes and Stitcher. Also, I think if you go to our webpage on huntfishjournal.com, though, you will find more information, and then you will on iTunes, because we have more information, such as the photos of the guests that we have and the celebrities that we talk to. You can look down through the list, and you can also, by going to our webpage, you can go through the podcast and pick out those that are specifically tied to the subjects that we're talking about. For example, the how to hunt the rut. And I would point out to our listeners, if you went to say, for example, podcast 102, it's how to hunt the whitetail rut workshop. But that's where we basically give you a pretty good overview of what we were talking about here today. So there's quite a few of them there you can pick over and look at if you've got any more questions. And you can feel free to contact Bruce or contact our show too, and we'll get back with you on any subject that we didn't cover well enough here today.
Are you on social networks, Facebook,
yes,
Twitter,
yes.
Instagram?
Huntfish Journal's also on Facebook and social media, and I am also. But correct, just Huntfish Journal. It's basically 3 words, Huntfish Journal. But when you look for it on the internet, it's just the one word, just huntfishjournaltogether.com, and you can find us there.
Thanks so much for Jerry, because listeners, you're going to want to follow up because he's going to give us stuff over. How many years have you been hunting, Jerry?
Over 45 years. I've been successfully killing, harvesting whitetail bucks probably for the last 15 to 20 years, and I would say in the last 15 years it's been honed. The process is honed down to where it's more of a method of doing it, and you can use parts of the method and be more successful, or you can use the whole method and be very successful. It's really up to the listener. It depends upon what you want to get out of hunting. It's some people don't really care about just killing a big buck. They just want to go deer hunting. Well, this works for deer hunting, period. Does, bucks alike. But if you try to apply the whole method, you'll find out it's giving you your best chance to kill that mature buck.
So at the beginning, the intro of the show, we talked about how, when, where, why. Which one do you want to start off with? Because we know we're restricted to about 30 minutes. Right. So I'll just turn it over to you, and you decide how you're going to start and how you're going to walk us through this whole system of rut functional hunting.
Okay. As I mentioned in part 1, I told you that I wasn't very successful back years ago hunting over 1 scrape. I was a little more successful hunting over 2 scrapes. Then I found out when I put scent in one of those scrapes or those 2 scrapes, I was more successful, and I was harvesting a buck now and then, but still I had not really got down to harvesting really mature bucks because I was going and hunting the stand, say, too early or too much. And we talked about that in part 1. So what I have learned with all the data that I've taken over the years and narrowing it down, you need to know the best days to go to your stand to hunt those big bucks, the good mature bucks. And those days has to do with the rut, of course. That has to do when the bucks are interested in the does to the point that they throw caution to the wind. It's the time that they transition from nighttime activity of making scrapes, going through the woods, what we call being horny. That's their livelihood. And then there's a time to where they cannot resist moving from that nighttime activity to day and night activity. And for me, the data that I've collected over the years, that's what I'm interested in. We know that there's stages in the rut. There's the seek stage in the rut. The seek stage is when this buck's going through the woods or going through food plots or wood lots or through fields, and he's going scent checking for an estrus doe. And we call that the seek stage. Well, the seek stage might start back when there is no estrus scent in the woods, and he's still seeking because his hormones are ramped up. He's making scrapes, he's making rubs, and he's excited. That's fantastic. But until that estrus scent starts to come into the woods of that doe, until he smells that, he doesn't really transition very much from the nighttime activity to day and night activity. So I took all that data that I kept for 30-something years, and I correlated it. I looked to see when was it I saw these bucks in the daylight hours going through the woods, going to these scrapes that I was hunting over. So then I realized that it didn't really have let me back up. Let me say this. I correlated it to temperature. I correlated it to the calendar day. I correlated it to the moon, the stages of the moon. I tried to correlate it to everything. And it only really correlates to one thing, and that is the change of sunlight, the amount of daylight that goes through the eye of that deer. In other words, the decreasing sunlight in that doe is subjected to causes her to go into an estrus cycle. It didn't correlate to the moon. I know there's a lot of people that really believe that rut is created by the stages of the moon, and there's a lot been written and a lot been published on it. I didn't see that correlation. I can show you data where the buck was in the seek stages, and I saw him seeking and big bucks and coming to the scrapes and so forth, and the moon would be in the full moon, the dark of the moon, every stage over the last 30-something years. It didn't have anything to do with the moon, but it did have to do with the slope, the change of the sunlight. So once I found that out, wow, that opened up a whole new door to me. I mean, this is fantastic. Then I realized, okay, I know that if I go to my stand too early, then I'm creating pressure. So I decided, well, I need to do something a little different. I need to set up more than one stand so I can hunt during the year. So I decided that I would set these stands up. Every stand that I have, I will set them up in what I call a rut functional pattern. In other words, every stand that I have, I don't care if it's my worst stand, I don't care if it's my best stand, I don't care if it's in my backyard. I make all stands the same pattern, set up the same way, to take advantage of the sex drive of the buck. So I take advantage of the mating instincts. Now, the mating instincts, you say, well, the rut only happens a few days out of the year. Well, the breeding season does, but it's after that buck sheds his velvet, and a few weeks or a week or two after he sheds his velvet, he's interested in estrus does. He just can't find one. There's just not any. If he could find one, he'd be interested in them. That's why they spar. That's why they do the things that bucks do. So I like to set every stand up as if this buck is seeking a doe, and he thinks that doe is in my woods, in my woodlot, or at my stand. So that's what I do. Knowing now that I need to know the key days to be there is tops on my list. The second thing on my list is to make sure that stand is set up to where I'm going to call those bucks to my stand and not just take a chance that they're going to cross through my property and happen to cross by my stand. I want them to know that place where I'm at is the best place to be. So that's how I set those stands up, to where I'm getting the attention of these bucks to my stand location. Now, the stand that I think is the best stand, my best rut stand, I will not hunt that one until the key days. That stand is dedicated, or those stands, and I'll dedicate probably 2 to 3 stands. I'm fortunate enough to hunt 3 different properties, and I may have 2 good rut stands on one property, and I will not hunt those stands. I will not hunt them until the best days to hunt. The days when they transition, those bucks transition from nighttime to day and night, and I want to be there that day. I want to be there when their sex drive is the highest and they believe there's a doe there. So the other stands that I have, I call tinker stands. I don't know if you've heard that term before or not.
No, I haven't.
I call them tinker stands. That means I'll tinker on them. I'll hunt them. I'm not hurting my other stand because I'm farther enough away from my rut stand that I'm not creating pressure on my rut stand. So I am hunting a tinker stand. Now, I will set it up. I will use the scrapes. I'll use scent in the scrapes. I'll hunt it the same. And actually, I kill most of my does. I harvest my does in these tinker stands. They are attracted to them just like bucks are. When I describe this setup, I think you'll understand why the does are also. But anyway, tinker stands that I'll hunt with, I enjoy the whole hunting season hunting these stands, and then the best stands for the key days of the rut. That's basically my philosophy of setting the stand up, how I do that. So keep the pressure off of your best stands by not hunting it.
How do you decide where to put those stands?
Okay, that's a good question.
You're putting up a series of stands. Now, to me, I'm thinking about the farm I hunt, and I'm going, that makes sense, But then I'm saying,
where'd I set it?
There's more to the story. There's more to the story.
You got it. There's more to the story. And here's the rest of the story, as they would say. You will set that stand up, not where you would say a traditional stand would be. We do a workshop. We're going to be doing a workshop in Germantown, Ohio, on July the 16th. And anyone's interested to go to the website and sign up for that workshop. because we are going to be limited in how many people that we can facilitate. It's in a pretty large Baptist church in Germantown, Ohio. They have gave us the opportunity to use that. We held our workshop there last year. So we cover this in the workshop, and I want to mention that because that's kind of how Henry and Lakeisha that you've had on your podcast, they got introduced to the method and where to put the stand, as you just asked. Here's what we do. We would hand out you a paper, and you'd see some trails, deer trails going through the woods, and I'd say, okay, where would you put your stand? 80% of all good deer hunters will pick an intersecting trail and put their stand up to play the wind on that intersecting trail. 80%.
I'm guilty.
Everybody, yeah, it's the way it is. Okay, you're gonna find this shocking, but it's true. I care less about the wind direction. I care more about the stand location than whether it's set up for prevalent wind. You'll understand why as I proceed. Okay, find that intersecting trail. Start backing up. Back up from that intersecting trail, moving back down the trails to where you got a trail to your right and you got a trail to your left. Now, when that distance from that right trail to the left trail for a bow hunter like myself, which I'm still shooting probably not the best height, and what I would say most accurate, I'm shooting good equipment, great equipment, but I still shoot fingers. I just like it. So I shoot fingers. So 20-yard shot for me is good. You see what I mean? 20 yards? You were mentioning that 40 is your distance that you can shoot to? Is that correct?
With my crossbow, I can, with a scope on it, I can shoot at 50 yards and cluster them.
Right. So good 25 would be good, easy shot for you, right? So,
yes, sir.
So for your case, you might be looking for the trails to get 50 yards apart. In my case, I look for the trails to be about 40 yards apart or less. I want them somewhere between 15 and 20 to my right and to my left. Can you follow me there? You see what I mean?
Okay, we got an intersection trail.
Back up.
And does it matter which way you go, left or right, from the intersection?
You just start backing up. When you approach that intersecting trail from your truck, you take the direction that you're going to approach it from. Okay.
Okay.
And back towards the truck until you can get, for a bow hunter, 40 yards across the two trails. Now, I have a trail to my right, I have a trail to my left. I look for a good tree in the center of that, or close to the center, that I can put a tree stand in. It's as simple as that.
Wow. Jerry, I just got to stop. So I know my go-to rut stand. Mm-hmm. I hunted too much, but I won't do that again. And what you just said, I was going to move my stand, and this year, 2015, I had a hip problem. I just had hip surgery in February. And so I didn't move my stand, but the bucks that came through shooters did exactly that. And I know exactly the tree I need to put my stand in because they're intersecting trails. I walk in with my truck up a logging trail, yada, yada, yada. Trail comes in, back it up. Wow.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, I just saw it. I know the tree that I'm going to put my stand in this summer.
Now, right now, you have trail to your right and trail to your left, and now you look on that trail for bushes, trees that's got overhanging branches. You see?
Right.
If you got overhanging branches and bushes that you can make licking branches out of, lo and behold, you're going to have scrapes there. You're going to make them happen there, you see?
Yep.
So now you're going to have scrapes to your right and scrapes to your left from that stand. Now there's one thing missing, and that is you want scrapes to your front. Now, you may have a cross trail. If you can find a cross trail that's crossing those two intersecting trails, you've got it made. If not, it's not a big deal. You find out where there's some bushes and trees that you can tie down on the opposite side of the trail. You cut you a trail across those two parallel trails. You literally just go through there with a hand sigh or something, cut the grass down, cut the weeds down, find some overhanging branches that you can tie down for licking branches, so that now you have a cross trail to your front, you have a trail to your right, and trail to your left. If you can visualize that, you just now have created a box that you can hunt in.
Well, I'm taking notes. That's why I'm quiet.
Yeah, you created a box, you see. So now what you're looking for is these overhanging branches that you can tie down pull down, and tie down, and make licking branches. And you'll tie these branches down to where they're about 4 to 5 feet, 5.5 foot, 4 to 5 foot off of the ground. You tie these branches down, trim them all out underneath them to where you got this one predominant branch hanging down that's a licking branch. Now, most folks would want to hunt over, scrape on one side, scrape on the other side, one in the front. I want to tell you, folks, the more scrapes you can have around your stand, the better. You can't have too many. So anywhere I can find an overhanging branch to tie down, I will tie them down. That's cool. Do it. But I want to make sure that for a right-hand bow shooter, for example, like myself, it works for guns. Same way, if you're a gun hunter, you may want to have more distance than that cross trail. You may even want to move it out to 60 yards across it or more, because with a gun you can do a lot more. But if you're going to hunt bow and gun, you want that parallel trail to the left, parallel trail to the right, and then you cut this trail across the front. You're going to tie down licking branches to where you can tie them down and make mock scrapes so that you have them around your stand, left, front, and right. You start with your mock scrape, the first licking branch, back to your left. Visualize the clock, the face of a clock. You want it at about 7 o'clock, back to the left, because you can shoot around the tree at 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock easily and get a good shot. So I start my scrapes there. I will move them up the parallel trail to my left. I will have one at 9 o'clock. I'll try to have one at 10 o'clock. Now I'm going to hit the cross trail in the front. You have one at 11 o'clock. You have one about noon. You have one over here about 1 o'clock. And now you're getting ready to get to the trail to the right side. And you might have one at 2 o'clock, but on the right side, you probably don't want to go past 3 o'clock. The reason being is if you're a bow shooter with shooting a bow, a crossbow, you might be able to bring it back to your right farther down, but you do not want a scrape you can't shoot to. So you now have put scrapes, mock scrapes, or you got licking branches that you're going to tie down that's completely around your stand. Now, what you do with these licking branches, if you've got good quality scent, you put a drop or two of scent on those licking branches all the way around your stand, and you can do that any time. Believe me, I went through the woods of all my stands and repaired my licking branches and tied down a couple more here a couple weeks ago. I put scent on every one of those licking branches. I put out cameras, and I've had does and button bucks on those licking branches a day or two after I made them. So licking branches are used by deer all year long, all year. So licking branches are there. They're a signpost used by deer. So the sooner they start using your licking branches, the better. You see?
Wow.
And now,
Jerry, we got about 10 minutes left of this segment.
Okay.
I don't know if we're going to have a part 3.
We'll hurry it through here. I'll hurry up if I can.
Okay.
Okay. So now you tied the licking branches down. The key to it now is to find out, make those, you go in and make those mock scrapes. You take a stick. We talked about scent pads on your boots. Use good doe and heat estrus scent. There's probably there's a lot of it out there. I worked with a guy for years on developing good scent with tarsal gland in it. Works great. I just use that. We have it on our website if you want to get a hold of that. We just it goes through us. It goes to him, and he sends the scent out. So, but I made it available because I don't know what scent works good. I know this one works. But anyway, you go through the woods then with a scrape stick. I cut a stick about 4 foot long, 3.5, 4 foot long, and it's about 2 inches in diameter, and I carry that with me to scrape out every one of those scrapes. So I go scrape out the scrape underneath these licking branches and put scent in them. I do that 30 to 40 days before the key day to hunt, the 6th stage of the rut, you see? And now, every 10 to 15 days with scent pads on my feet, I go in and reactivate those scrapes until the key day to hunt. Now, keep in mind, you may be wanting to hunt tinker stands, and you're having a ball hunting these other stands, and you'll see a lot of deer because those does are interested in those licking branches and those scrapes, and I have harvested my does every year, probably in October here in the Midwest, October 1st to the middle of October. I usually harvest them, and they're stopping at those scrapes too. So nevertheless, now you've activated these scrapes in your woods. break off any licking branch of any scrape that's in your area that you can't shoot to. Break them off. You don't want to scrape except it being around your stand. So now, the only thing left to know is when is the key time to go to that scrape to kill that big buck. I've correlated that, like I told you before, it has to do with the rate of change of sunlight. That rate of change of sunlight is what triggers that doe to go into estrus. Well, when she begins to smell like she's going into estrus, but she is not ready to be bred, that scent is in that woods. That's what drives that buck nuts. So he transitions then to daylight activity going through the woods. That's the time I want to be there. That's the key day. That day will vary depending upon your geographic location. We talked about that some in part one of this. It will have to do with where you're at. In the south, it will be later than in the north. The north, it'll happen earlier. There's as much as 20-something days in the change of when that time takes place. I'm not going to argue with deer biologists that that's the seek stage, it's the middle of the seek stage, it's the beginning of the chase stage. I'm not going to argue with them. I just know from all of my years of data, that time when that sun triggers that doe to smell right and she's not ready to breed, that's the date that I come up with. It has to do with your geographic location, your state and the town that you're located in. So I used to do this with my buddies. They'd call me, and I'd had enough people all over the country from several states would call me, and my friends around here would call and say, when is it this year? And so we did this for years. It takes me 30 minutes. It used to take me 30 minutes to calculate this for that geographic location. Well, it was driving me nuts. So then when I started doing these broadcasts and these shows and telling people how to do this, I realized I had to do something about it. So I got a programmer, and we programmed the algorithm for it that calculates that time, that key time, and it's on our website. So you can go to the website, put in your state, your town, and it'll tell you you can determine what that key date is.
So we don't need the latitude, longitude?
My program does it for you.
Wow,
yeah,
thank you.
It does it for you. It costs us to maintain the programmer to have this work done. We're not making what you would say. We're not making profit off of this, but it costs us about $14, $15 to maintain that site for the people that come to it to find that date. So there's a fee of $15, but believe me, that's the best $15 you'll spend to find out when the key day is to hunt.
Let me interject this. I just got to, because this is the aha moment I got out talking to Halo Chronicles, because Henry was telling me yada yada yada, and he's telling me the whole story to the best, and I said, Henry, you just saved me hundreds of dollars, if not thousands of dollars, and this is for people hunting multiple states, because you're going to travel to Ohio and you live in Kansas, vice versa. You're going to travel where the deer are. There's about 37 states plus or minus that have whitetails. Mm-hmm. So out of 52, that's a lot of hunting, and you only have so many days. But that's the key word. I said you only have so many days to hunt. So if you knew before you went, exactly, or booked the hunt, spent the money, got a lease, got invited to go on the guy's farm, whatever, and you said, Jerry, thank you so much for inviting me to your farm. I would like to hunt these 3 days, these 2 days. Right. Do you think that'd be okay? To the outfitter, say, hey, I'm going to come in 5 days, but I want to hunt X stand only these 2 days. The other 5 days, put me any place on the farm you want. Mm-hmm. But the caveat to there is you got to set up those mock scrapes. Correct? You do, but I will tell you this: people that listen to our show, our show last year, from all over. From Oklahoma, we had Mississippi. Henry and Lakeisha was one of them. From Michigan, a whole bunch of states. They went out and did this. Well, some of them got a hold of it late, didn't make the mock scrapes around their stand, and some of them did. So some of them, but all of them that got a hold of our show, everybody that we heard from, only one said, well, I don't think the time was right. All the rest of them came back and said, oh my goodness, I saw more deer. I had better results. I killed this deer. I killed that deer. So Arkansas, Oklahoma, Indiana, Mississippi, Michigan. These people come back and said,
cool. This is great. I didn't really get to make all the scrapes around my stand like I did, but I used scent. And so one of them would come back and say, I was there hunting those key days, and I hunted to my best stand at key days, and it worked. So I'm saying if you use any part of it, it's better than none. But if I had an outfitter, could go to that outfitter, and I could hunt that. I'd ask him, can I tie down these branches? You see what I mean? And if you could get him to put the scent in those scrapes, just to activate them for you, man alive. And then you go in there and track that scent in that day of that key day. It's just a world difference. It's a world difference.
Wow.
Henry and Lakeisha would not let the cameraman come. They wouldn't come until those key days. That's how much he believed in it.
And it worked.
Yeah, it worked.
We got proof positive with Lakeisha's wonderful buck. And I'm just sitting here behind the bunkhouse. We hunt along the Bear River, and behind the bunkhouse is a place that's really hard to hunt. It's really hard because it necks out. The farmer goes within not even 50 yards of the river, but there's a neck there that I've set in trees, but I never could get it right. Mm-hmm. But now I can trap. There's a wonderful 10-point buck in there. We saw him last year, but we couldn't get on him. But now, if he made it through the winter, didn't get shot in gun season, I know where he lives, and he has to run through that net.
Yeah. Let me add this to it, Bruce. Let me make sure I can add this to that.
Sure. Go ahead.
If you can make those scrapes to your left, front, and right around that stand, it doesn't matter if that strip is short or narrow. If you've got that much distance between those two trails, what happens is it draws those bucks to that area. It draws them there. Now I'm going to give you some information that is realistic, and I've seen it time and time again. I use trail cameras a lot. I do not put trail cameras over my rut stands. I put them over minerals. I put them over food plots. I look at what's on my property and what's not. So I know how to use trail cameras. I've been successful using trail cameras for many years. Do not use them on your rut stand because they know they're there. I don't care. Be cautious about that. But nevertheless, here's what I found out. I could have on a 60-acre property, I would have 5 residents. This is an average, and this is what I saw on one of my properties last year. 5 residents bucks there all summer. Anything from a little old, actually, these 5 residents bucks, there wasn't one of them was a shooter for me, not a mature buck. 5 that was there all summer. I made my mock scrapes actually 40 days before the key day of that 6th stage of the rut. The 6th stage of the rut actually only lasts, by the way, about 4 days. Those 4 days, those does start to come into estrus enough to where that buck's behind her and won't leave her, and he's chasing her through the woods. It still works if you're hunting with a gun, but if you're hunting with a bow, it's hard to get him to stop because he's chasing that doe. But it's still a good time to hunt. So you've got 4 to 7 days or 4 to 8 days of the best time to hunt. That starts for that day that we tell you is the start of the seek day. You see what I mean? So those 4 days is the best 4 days to hunt if you're hunting over scrapes with a bow, but the next 4 is still good. After that, you got lockdown and breed. It's pretty hard unless you're out in open country hunting with a gun. But here's what I've experienced. 5 resident bucks on 60-acre property. I make the scrapes 30 to 40 days ahead of the calculated key day to hunt. And in 2 weeks' time, it went to 15 bucks on the property.
Whoa.
And then by the time it got to the seek stage, that key day to the rut, it went from 15 to 22. 15 to 22 bucks visiting my property. So it draws these bucks. Those scrapes, those activated scrapes, and that scent on those licking branches draws the bucks. And that hold, you just take those 1.5 mile circles and 1.5 mile circles all around your stand. You see what I mean? All around your property. It's drawing those bucks there from all over.
Wow.
You see what I mean?
So,
but they're still at nighttime. You'll see them on the cameras, nighttime. Now you go and hunt that stand, that key day, and now you have your choices. You see?
Wow. So I'm kind of sitting here going, what about the guy that 30 acres, 10 acres? I mean, we're not even talking.
I'm only using 60 acres. I'm only using 60 acres to give you an idea of, because I could measure 60 acres to see how many deer's there. This works if you've got 5 acres, 10 acres, 15 acres. Here's the key to it. Pressure. I'm back again to pressure like we talked about in segment 1. you create pressure, your odds go down. If someone is hunting next to you, right near where your stand is, your pressure is going to go up and your opportunity is going to go down. You know who creates most of the pressure on deer? You, the hunter. And you know who creates the most next pressure? Your hunting buddy. You and your hunting buddy is the one that creates pressure on the deer. The next pressure created, we might think it's coyotes. They create pressure. I understand that. Dogs do too, and they can actually move them, but they tolerate that easier than they tolerate humans. So you, your buddy, so make sure you and your buddy aren't hunting together on the same location, you're not messing each other up. The next cause of pressure is your neighbor. If the neighbor and your stand is right close together, you got a problem because he's there, he's going to avoid their stand. But if you're inside of 5 acres far enough, every time that neighbor goes to hunt, guess what? That buck is finding solitude on your 5 acres. He's going to stay more on your property than he is on the neighbor's property. So small properties, it works. It's basically, it's for us people that hunt small properties. It works for people that's got large properties, but you utilize the pressure created by other people. You do not create the pressure on your property. Utilize scent and scrapes to draw them to your area and know the key day to go hunt. No, that's it. That's the summary.
Okay, what about, I've heard about, the king buck, the dominant buck, the buck that owns that's his core area that we're talking about. Now, doesn't he want to kick out all these interlopers?
There's a lot to be said about that. They'll fight, and they'll fight over a hot doe that's an estrus, and they'll fight to maintain their area. But my experience is these bucks tend to cross areas and avoid each other, and sometimes your biggest buck has got a buddy buck with him that's a shooter too. No, that's not what I found out. I can give you. I have run a lot of studies, and if you had time, I can quickly tell you.
Sure, go ahead.
I set up a test scrape on. I forfeited one of my best rut stands that I had killed several bucks over, and I decided to prove what I knew to be the case. So I set a camera up over one of my mock scrapes. I believe it was 8 scrapes around my stand. I set a camera up over one of those mock scrapes. Now, you have to realize, once you set this stand up this year, it's a mock scrape. Next year, it's a historical scrape. You understand what I mean? Because
yes,
they're
sir.
using that licking branch all the time, and that scrape, you can be assured it's a lot easier to get that scrape underneath that tree the next year. The next year, it's better. The more you use that stand, the better it is, you see, because you're not hunting it a lot, and that becomes a historical scrape. Now, I put a camera over this site and over one of the 8 mock scrapes that I made. I did it on September the 29th, and in this particular geographic location this year, the seek stage of the rut would have been November the 9th at that location, and I monitored it. Here's what I had. I had 12 different bucks came to that mock scrape. 12 different bucks, and this was done for a 50-day period until the end of the rut, you see. 50-day period. I had 12 different bucks. They ranged from a spike to 2 real shooter 10 points. You see what I mean? Good bucks. 12 different bucks. Do you know that those bucks visited that one scrape 37 times? 37 times. That's an average of 0.7 bucks a day in that scrape. In that one scrape out of 8 scrapes. That's only camera on one. Now, but only 22% of the buck visits, 22% of all those buck visits was in daylight hours. You see what I'm getting at?
Yep.
You can hunt that stand. If you went and hunted that stand for 6 days, you'd have to hunt it 6 days to see a buck in in that scrape. So that's why it doesn't pay you to hunt over one scrape. You see?
Yep.
6 days you would have. But do you know that 63% of all the daylight buck visits occurred during those days, those key days?
Wow, I'm just blown away. We're going on almost 35 minutes, 37 minutes here. I
I
don't know if we could do a part 3. What do you think?
Well, I think I've pretty well got it summed up
Okay.
for you, Bruce. I think there's one thing I would add to this is that when you set these scrapes up in this box that I'm talking about, you use good scent control methods, I don't care which way the wind is blowing. You understand what I'm getting at? I don't care.
Yes, sir.
I don't play the wind. I never play the wind anymore. I don't care which way the wind is blowing, because the worst case is that the wind is blowing the other way. In other words, it's blowing toward me, which is what most people want. They want the wind coming to them. Not me. I want the wind going from those scrapes out into the woods. So as the bucks come through that woods, they pick the scent of this doe and heat in those scrapes and that licking branch up first, because I'm in the center of this box. I've created a shield, so to speak, of doe and estrus, and this buck is, for the first time in a year, he's going to daylight, basically. He's spending a lot of time in the daylight hours. When he smells that good doe and estrus, he's coming. He's coming to me. You see what I mean? And the only place that you're not covered is where you walked in, because if the wind would be blowing that direction, there's no scrape behind you. But if you trailed your doe and heat scent in on scent pads, he will run across that way back there somewhere, and now you've got his attention from that direction. In other words, it actually makes playing the wind obsolete. That's why the success ratio goes up so much.
Wow, I'm sitting here listening to you for the last we're way into an hour, and I'm thinking about all the stands that I have, spread out on the farm. We've been hunting for forever, and I'm thinking, okay, how am I going to get those guys not to hunt their stands? And that's going to be my biggest challenge, because you just gave me the keys to get the bucks in. And the biggest buck we killed on the farm is 173. The farmer got that buck a number of years ago, so the genes are there. We know that, and it's just we've been hunting it completely not wrong, because we get bucks every year, either archery or gun season, but we're not getting the quality bucks, the mature bucks, because they know when I shut the door,
right,
quarter mile away, literally a quarter mile away. As soon as I shut my door, they know I'm there.
Yeah. We did a podcast. There's one of our podcasts. It's called How to Keep the Pressure Off Your Deer Woods. That's it would be HFJ 110. It's kind of, we talk about that. What's involved in keeping the pressure down. That's a key one. And then the other one is 110. And then we talk about how to control scent is 103. But basically, it boils down to keeping the pressure off, but don't hunt the stand too much. Make sure you're scent controlled. Use quality. I'm talking about real quality deer and estrus scent, and get their mind off of you and on that doe that he's been looking for all year. You see?
Jerry Everhart of Hunt Fish Journal, you just blow me away. And folks, I'm definitely going to have Jerry back, on the show. It's been just a privilege and an honor, because you changed up 50 years of hunting.
Well, it took a lot of years of data collection to find out when that key time was, and it took me a lot of experimenting around with hunting with scrapes. But basically, once you see it, it's not rocket science. It really is just a lot more common sense than anything else. In other words, take advantage of the mating instincts of that buck. Take him when he's at his weakest point, and have fun.
Well, on behalf of Whitetail Nation all across North America, Jerry Everhart of Hunt Fish Journal, thank you for the information you shared on the last 2 days of Whitetail Rendezvous.
Well, you're welcome, Bruce. I've enjoyed it very much, and all you folks out there, just go hunt those whitetails and have fun.
If you're looking to break into the outdoor industry, tomorrow's guest, LuckyWorm.com, has got some interesting facts for you. How to break into the outdoor industry using digital media. Yep, you're not going to want to miss this one, folks.
Thanks for joining us. Be sure to tune in tomorrow for another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous, where you can listen and learn from the experts so you can be more successful on your next hunt. Until next time, listen, learn, and succeed.
Remember to text 33444 Food Plot for your free ebook